We talk about hardcore addictions like drugs a lot, but one thing people tend to miss are the silent addictions, the socially acceptable, harmless addictions that help you clock out or help you focus, allowing you to cope with what the world gives you, whether it's your phone, smoking weed, alcohol, video games, sports betting, or even coffee or sugar. It's normal to partake in at least some of these. I mean, it's legal and everyone's doing it, so why not? Welcome to My Generation. Joining me today are Trinity, Chris, and Anthony to talk about the reality of these harmless addictions on this generation of Canadians. So, guys, let me ask you this question here. Is there such thing as a harmless addiction? Do you agree with the title?
No.
You
I don't
don't.
think so. I don't think there's such thing as a harmless addiction.
So you think anything could be an addiction and it's harmful?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, if we're using the word addiction, it kind of implies like a negative dependency.
Yeah.
However, like if you're addicted to maybe going to the gym, but then once again, where's the line? Are you going like 7 times a day? Are you addicted to being in the gym? Or do you have like a healthy
Right.
relationship with a habit?
At what point does something become problematic?
I think something becomes problematic when it goes from you controlling the thing to the thing controlling you.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to get into some interesting stats here. In a 2018 survey, close to 80% of young Canadians, 15 years and older, reported drinking alcohol. It is a substance that the majority of young people in grades 7 through 12 will try first. A 2022 report found that Canada has one of the highest prevalence rates of cannabis use in the world, and cannabis use is highest among young adults aged 20 to 24, 50%, followed by 16 to 19-year-olds, 37%. A CAMH study from 2017 found that almost 12% of all Ontario University students exhibit signs of video game addiction, so gaming disorder is also on the rise. Which of these stats really surprise you guys? Any?
I don't think any
No.
of them surprise
Okay,
me.
the cannabis one really shocks me. 16 and 19?
No, not me.
Does it sadden you?
No, you're in control of your own body and your own destiny, I think. I think at 16, you should have enough education. Hopefully, the schools are doing their job to teach you what using cannabis does and why you shouldn't use it at a young age. Your brain's still developing, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think these stats don't surprise me. I grew up.
No.
I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s. None of these stats surprise me, including the video game one,
Yeah.
because I was a big Halo 3 addict.
Is
for
it
sure.
an age thing? Like, is it
Yeah.
just the typical age groups, like past maybe your parents,
Well-
whatever, dealt with this, or is it a generation thing?
I think that it's partially an age thing. I was reading that 90% of substance use disorders start in the teen years. So it's not really surprising that it's still something that's going on since that's been going on for a very long time. I think what another thing that this generation has is like TikTok and social media, where you have things like the Benadryl challenge, where you take tons of Benadryl, and that has
I
taken
didn't
some
know that was a
lives.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That has taken the lives of a handful of teens and
Wow.
damaged the bodies of many others who are still alive. So I think that that's something that's unique to this generation.
What do you think are some of the more prevalent harmless addictions? Clearly, we don't think that that's a thing,
Shopping.
but shopping?
Shopping,
I didn't say
harmless
shopping.
addiction.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that there's financial addictions like that. I feel like everyone has an addiction to their phone.
You own a coffee shop. Are you
Yeah.
addicted to coffee?
Absolutely.
You think, oh, you are?
Yeah, I would say I have an addiction.
Is it
to
harmful?
coffee. I'd say so. It could be like I've made a content about this actually. But if you have let's say you're struggling with your weight and you're drinking a large caramel latte every day and you have a goal to lose weight, I mean you're ingesting sugar and things like that. Now, if you're drinking black coffee every day, that's not very harmful. Or if you have a healthy relationship with sugar and other things, it's not harmful. But
Right.
coffee can be calories depending on how you're consuming
So
it.
kind of what I hear you saying is it could start as harmless, but then become problematic.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think a lot of addictions that we just talked about kind of can start like that, where you start with something that's harmless, that doesn't matter, and then it can kind of develop.
Now, okay, would you guys say that there's a lack of awareness for these kind of things? I mean, we're doing a whole show on it, but would you say that there's a lack of awareness for these smaller things that are seemingly okay to society to do?
No, I think people know it exists. I think that we just have accepted it.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
You think people fully understand the consequences of smoking weed or drinking alcohol? You really think that?
I think when you reach a point, yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. How many times can you wake up hungover before you realize, yeah, this is really starting to get its toll on my body?
Fair
How
point.
many times can you go to the doctor and they're like, pretty soon you're going to be on a puffer if you don't start? if you don't stop hitting the bong. You know, it's the same with you talked about these substances. What about cigarettes? What are you going to go until you have lung cancer? You start to lose circulation in your blood. You
All
can't.
right, I'm gonna cut you off there.
I love
like
when
always.
you do that, though. It's my
When
favorite
we
thing
come
in the
back,
world.
we'll look at what impact these substances or activities can have on us. Like always, I'm cutting Anthony off, but we'll see you guys in the next segment.